to stay.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Boards, a podcast dedicated to the actions and interests of skaters beyond skateboarding. My guest today, Lucas Beaufort, discovered skateboarding at a young age and fell deeply in love with it. While working as the advertising manager of French skate and surf magazine Desillusion for a few years, Lucas developed a strong interest for art, and today his drawings are everywhere in the skateboarding world. From magazine covers to skate decks to luxury hotel lounges and more recently on the walls surrounding the Tampa Pro contest. He also just released a book called Heart, a tribute to skate shops around the world, as they are the backbone of skateboarding culture. So here's my conversation with Lucas Beaufort. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Never ends.
Thank you very much, Luca, for taking some time to chat with me. Really appreciate it. I'm a big fan of your work. Super stoked to have you on the podcast and to get to talk with you a little bit about everything you do. I'm going to try not to keep you for too long. I know you're a busy man. So I usually start my interviews, as you know, with just a guest introducing himself or herself in a few words and telling me how they started skating. So can you just tell me a little bit about finding skateboarding and how you grew up and everything?
I'm glad to be here, honestly. I've been listening to your different podcasts, so I'm familiar to it. I am Lucas Beaufort. I'm a French dreamer. I love to say that because I'm inspired by it. I spend my nights dreaming about my next project and dreaming about what's around me and what I would love to achieve. So, I love to say I'm a dreamer, not just an artist, because artist is so wide, I think we are all artists in a way.
Sure.
People think that you're an artist because you paint or because you make sculpture or you're a comedian, whatever.
Yeah.
I think in a way we like the way we talk, the way we walk down the street, the way we look at things represent the idea of like being an artist. So I think we are all artists, and I think I'm a dreamer.
Okay.
And you talk about like how I got involved with skateboarding.
Yeah.
It all started at my young age. I don't really remember exactly, but I think I was like between 5 and 7. I grew up with my mom and my brother. I have a twin brother.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that, yeah.
And she was like, we went to this toy boutique where you can get whatever. And I saw the plastic skateboard, and I was like, I want this. Looked like a big fish, big boat. And it was like a random thing, and my brother and I used to go down the hill, with on our knees, and it was a perfect way to kill our clothes all day long.
Yeah.
So it was much more about like having fun, and it's cool because that the first approach of skateboarding is having fun.
Yeah.
And the first feeling I had was like the idea of like rolling fast and getting down, It was just so cool. And I have this memory of like living in Cannes because I grew up in the French Riviera.
That's right.
And I was like close to the sea. And before going to the beach, I was like, hey, Mom, let's go skate a little bit. So I wasn't really skateboarding. I was just like going down as fast as possible.
Rolling around.
Yeah, so that was my first approach. Yeah, pretty much.
Were there a lot of skaters in Cannes when you were growing up, or was it kind of a small scene?
Man, it was like one of the best scene ever, honestly. I remember. So I tell you a little bit of my background. So between 5 and 7, I used to skate like every Sunday or Saturday. It was just like playing with a toy. And then my mom, she was like tired of me getting like dirty and like covered with holes and like wasting our clothes. So she decided to take it away. And then like at the age of 13, I took it seriously. And I was like, hey, Mom, give my skateboard back. So that's when like I really like got into it. Had a real like I think it was an Element skateboard back then.
Okay.
And then I went to La Croisette. We call it 3x4, 3 flat 4 was the spot. And before going there, I was like, so my dad was living in Cannes and my mom, she was living like outside the city. And so my dad was living next to a skate shop called LSD, L'Anglois Sport Distribution. And I went there and I was like, oh, where should I go to skate? And the guy there said, go to Trois Plaquettes. It's crazy, you see the scene. And when I went there, I saw like 70, 80 people skate. It was kind of like going to Disneyland. It was just like, what? And it was kind of like Jurassic Park, you know, when you see the world.
Yeah.
And I learned everything from this. So every 2 weeks, I was going to my dad's place in Cannes, and I was like spending my whole weekend at the spot, you know, like learning everything, hanging with friends and making friends, basically, because they were all from Cannes, and I was like just a little bit outside, and I was just like discovering everything. So it was the beginning of the enjoyment.
Yeah. So you started skating. I was interested in knowing also, when did art and drawing come into your life? Was it pretty much at the same age, or did that interest develop later maybe? Or I was just curious to know how skateboarding and art kind of began in your life.
Actually, art came very late. I'm sad to say that because I wish I could have started before, but I started to paint at the age of 27. Which is like, very late. Before that, never used any pencil, never used any brush to paint anything. It was just random. When I started, it was just like, I just want to express myself and like draw something that I have in my mind. When I started, I never thought to become an artist. I didn't know what it was, you know. What is it to be an artist?
Yeah.
I just like took a piece of paper and drew something on it. And it was at the same time of the Facebook, you know, that happened. And I was just like, okay, I put a photo here and there, and out of the blue, somebody said, oh, is it for sale? I was like, who the fuck want to buy this piece of shit? But I said, yeah, maybe. And then this guy bought the piece, and I was like, the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And then I kept like putting some photos without knowing what is Facebook, because at the very beginning, nobody knew what it was. It was just like super new. I was like getting new friends every day. I was like, oh shit, I have 4,000 friends now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then like a year later, maybe 10 months later, a guy approached me, said, do you want to make a show? I was like, yeah, tomorrow. And he was like, do you have like pieces ready? No. You know, you can see that I was a I was a beginner, you know, I didn't know nothing about it. So
sure.
It was like, okay, take 6 months and like call me back when you're ready. So like 6 months later, I had my first show, and then, you know, it was like a snowball, you know. Like,
but
it wasn't like predicted, nothing. It was just random, and it like became serious over the years.
Okay. So you didn't draw at all when you were like growing up? It really developed later in your adult life? You weren't doing any like just sketches or whatever when you were a teenager or stuff like that?
My brother was more into this. It's funny because my mom, she put my brother in an art school because she thought he was gifted. But it was so, my brother, if he listens to this, I'm sure he's going to be like, oh man. But my brother is so lazy, you know, he's lazy because he was talented like by drawing, but getting to do like your homeworks and reading stuff, books, it wasn't his thing. So after like 6 months, he quit. And I was just like seeing like what he was doing. But to be honest with you, I think that even if I started to draw very late, I was into this world for a long time since my young age, because my dad used to collect art. So I was like surrounded by it. My dad used to take me to some galleries and say, hey, look at this. What do you think of that? And I was like always asking questions about different artists. And my mom, she's an artist too. She paints a lot of landscapes like from Provence, you know, this type of thing. And I was surrounded by it. My mom, she used to use like oil-based paintings, you know, and I was like, oh, mom, you're so talented. It's crazy. How did you learn this? Mm-hmm. And skateboarding as well. Like when I started, I was into like graphics. So I was like, I knew, you know, Sean Cliver and Todd Brattrud, those artists that back then I was influenced by.
Yeah.
I would be down to buy some books and some posters and screen prints. So even if I wasn't drawing, I was into it. I loved it. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't practicing, but I was into like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you were absorbing a lot of influences, which eventually kind of came out of you when you started painting and drawing later.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why when I started it came very fast, because it was so intense inside me. So it's like getting like things for 20 years, like a book that you keep shut for 20 years and one day you open it. It's a fucking explosion. So that's what happened to me. It's like opening the book. Like open the zoo, open the zoo with all the, super starving animals.
Exactly, yeah. Was there a specific moment where you kind of sat down in front of a piece of paper and started painting or drawing and kind of had this realization? Or was it more a progressive discovery of all this desire to express yourself through art?
I think it was like, as I said, like a snowball, because I remember the first drawing was for a reason. Like the first drawing was for my brother. It was like Christmas time and I was wondering what should I do for him? Should I go to a random shop and buy a t-shirt that will end up in a closet with tons of like all the shit? Or should I do something with my hand and something that he could have forever? And I decided to do that, put it on a frame. It was Christmas. My family was there. I was like, oh, wow, you draw? I was like, no, at all. It's just something for my brother. And then like my step parents, they were like, oh, that's amazing. Could you make a canvas for us? I was like, are you sure? And I did a canvas. And the canvas ended up being on Facebook. So it was random, but it was like one person asked and another person asked something. And then I kept like drawing, but I had another life, back then. I'm sure we will get into this, but I had a job back then. So it was side project, I wasn't making any money. It was just like, oh, that's fun. That's cool to just draw things and that's it.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, because I know that you worked for this magazine called Desillusion in France for about 8 years, I believe. And you were like the advertising manager over there. I don't know if you were doing that for the whole length of the 8 years, or maybe it was just a portion of it. But I was just interested in knowing how did that opportunity start for you, and was that also like one of your very first jobs after you finished studying and stuff, or?
Yeah, it was. Actually, when I finished studying, I don't know what year, but I had like Erasmus. You heard about Erasmus? The program?
Like an exchange program,
Yeah. So it was like a EUT, I did like
like a 2-year degree.
Yeah, 2-year degree. Then I did Erasmus in Scotland. But before
nice.
that, I was in high school with a bunch of friends, and this guy, Sebastian, who used to do the magazine. We were like a group of friends. So when I finished my school, this guy said, hey, do you want to work with me? And I knew he was doing this. It was basically a zine with just random shit, like with 20 pages inside. And he was like, dude, do you want to come with me and work? And it was like, let's go, because actually, I just turned 40 and never like applied for a job, never in my life. So it was just like I had this guy saying, do you want to come with me? And I didn't know what it was. It was just like, okay, see you tomorrow. And I went to the office. It was just like almost like one computer for 3 people,
Okay.
I think I learned a lot back then, because when you're brand new with a zine, nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to work with you. Nobody cares about the zine, because it was like full of like bad words. It was like sometimes like pictures stolen from internet that it wasn't like in good quality. We didn't know about how to make a magazine actually. And that's the beauty of it, because when you learn everything from scratch, it's not like you get hired by somebody that is already successful. When you do that, it's like you're comfortable. You just like use a big file of like names and emails and you just like resend contracts. No, you built everything. And it was like, dude, you're going to sell ads and be the money maker. And I was like, okay, for sure, let's go. And he sent me like some phone numbers. And I remember like starting like calling people and nobody wanted to work with us. We were like the black sheep. It's just because we know how it is, in skateboarding. If you cheat with skateboarding or if you just not into this community, it's very hard to be accepted, it's very hard.
Yeah,
we used to say it's a big family, we love people and etc. It's true, but to be accepted by the people, it's very hard. It takes time. So at the very beginning, we were not accepted. And at the end, after my 8 years, we were very well accepted. And people like that used to be like, oh, this is a piece of shit. Used to take subscription. You know what I mean? Jumping from like this like super down to at the end like being invited by, you know, I remember, think about it, just to give you an idea. Nobody wanted to work with us, so I was selling ads to the boutique down the street. It could be like a video club, could be like I don't know, a bakery, whatever. I was like, hey, do you want to put some ad into this, you know? So it was like from this to being invited to spend like 4 days with Costin or Reynolds in their place and documenting it, you know? So when you think about it, it's like a long fucking road where we had to face crocodiles, ghosts, witches, the terrific people, you know, to the time where it was like, fuck yes, you know, you know, like living the dream of like, because I was like hoping for it. I wanted to like meet those people because I was dreaming about this and eventually it happened. So that's the reason why after that, I was like, after 8 years, I think that I reached the goal, you know, when you do that, you're like, okay, what's next? So I decided to quit for that reason. Like I could have like all the brands that I want for the magazine. We did documentary for like our heroes. So I was like, what's next for me? As I wasn't like partners of the magazine. I was, let's say, employee, even if like I felt like I was more than this because we grew up together. But yes, it was a big journey and it's also like a good school for me to learn life.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it must have been a big learning experience for you, and it definitely must have helped you a lot through all the rest of your experiences after that. And so, do you remember what year you quit, and how did you transition into what you're doing now, being a full-time freelance illustrator? Was there kind of a period where you were kind of doing a bit of both, or did you kind of switch from one to the other pretty quickly?
No, that's true. I think I started to draw in 2008 and I quit in 2013. So when I decided to quit, I was already like getting some
recognition.
Yeah, like excitement and like I was getting a little bit accepted with my heart. And because it was hard, you know, at the very beginning, it's like all the people you know in skateboarding, they're like, Lucas, I don't understand. Are you like taking care of like the business of the magazine or are you an artist? People, they hate it.
Yeah.
You can't have like multiple things because they don't get it. For them, it's like you, the money maker of the magazine. You can't be an artist as well. So people that didn't take me seriously, you know, at the very beginning, it was much more like, oh yeah, he's doing his thing. Nothing will happen for him. It was just like, okay, we'll see. And after 6 years, and I told you, like, I felt like I reached the limit of the magazine in terms of like expansion.
Yep.
And at the same time, my artist was like getting to the point where I could like maybe make a living with my art. So I decided to quit in 2013. It was a hard time because it was like big risk for me. And at the same time, you know, the people who were working at the magazine, they thought I was going to the competitors. They were like, okay, he's going to quit for another magazine. And I said, no, no at all. I'm going to do my art. Nobody believed me. And now look who I am. You know, I'm still like independent. I'm still like self-employed and do my thing. And I'm so grateful every morning to be able to do this, to be like my own boss. If I don't want to wake up tomorrow, fuck that. I don't wake up tomorrow. If I want to work for 24 hours in a row because I have a project that I have to finish, let's go. I don't care about like, what is it? 35 hours a week? You know, I think I probably work 100 hours a week. But it doesn't sound working. It feels like freedom. The more I work in something I love, the better I feel. So, you know, I always like say people like do what you love. You know, like life is so short. Try to do something that represents something to you. And that's always what I spread, you know. I always spread that, you know, especially with the youth. I take them. I try to give them like the good words and tell them like everything's possible, dude. Everything's possible. Even if it sounds cheesy, that's true. I mean, nobody put me where I am today. I just put myself where I am.
Yeah, for sure.
You create things into skateboarding of like documenting about like, you know, interviewing those people. You create your own path and that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're a big inspiration in that sense for sure. And so So you were doing art, you left the magazine. You also started at some point drawing over covers of magazines. I remember, I think in the Big Spin interview, maybe you mentioned that you did a recover of, I think it was Adrien Bullard who backtailed El Toro. And you did a bunch of those. And I think that all went eventually into one of your first projects called the Recover. And so, yeah, I was just interested in knowing how did you come up with this idea to draw over skate magazine covers, basically?
So the first magazine that I drew, it was a Vice magazine. And it was like, let's say, 2 years after I started to draw. So you have to understand that I grew up in the 90s, where the only way to get info and to get some reading about skateboarding was through paper, you know.
Okay.
And, since I started in 1994, I didn't stop buying magazines. So I was surrounded by it. I was surrounded by publication from the US because I used to have like people going to California, getting back with Skateboarder, Thrasher, Transworld, and any kind of magazines I was fan of.
Okay.
So the day I started to paint on this cover, I was like getting bored, nothing to do. I was just like doodling on things, and I had this cover with the big mouth, started to draw inside. Mm-hmm. And then I took a photo, sent an email to info@vice.com, which is the worst way to connect with a brand.
Yeah.
That it won't go anywhere. And you know what? Surprisingly, the next day I had a message from them say like, can we use it? And do you want a subscription? And I was like, fuck yes. And I turned around and I saw all the magazines. I was like, let's go. The party starts. And I did the same with all the Sugar magazine, the Soma back then, Freestyler, and all the kind of magazine that I had. And the good thing is like, same thing happened. They were like, oh, can we use it? And do you want a subscription? So after like 5 months, I was getting like 20 to 30 magazines every month at home. So first of all, I was like very into what was going on in the world of skateboarding. Mm-hmm. From Australia, Slam from Australia. I mean, so much different skateboard magazines. And I was so lucky to get this. So, and then to be honest with you, I think this idea put me in a good position in terms of like, I mean, I'm not saying that Instagram can save your life, but almost, mm-hmm. If you reach this kind of like of audience, then like out of the blue brand, they reach you. They're like, hey, let's make a collaboration together. Or they take you seriously, which is stupid, but that's the reality, The more you have followers, the more you have businesses.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a funny project at the very beginning, but then I understood that this thing's going to put me where I want to be, I want to work more in skateboarding. So I jumped from like 200 followers. I was getting followed by my friends and my family, that's it, to 20,000 in 3 months because it was like crazy. Like I remember that day, I mean, just an example of what happened, but I remember I was in Utah and I was like always sending like covers of like doodling on Transworld and they were like stoked, they were like cool, but they never posted it. And one day I was just like, okay, that's the next one. And 5 minutes later they posted it and I was like, shit, it's happening. And then I was like refreshing my page and it's crazy. Like it was back then. It was in 2014 where you could get following. Not today. Yeah. I mean, I swear if trends were like posting your shit, you will get 5 followers because it's dead.
Yeah, there's so much content. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the people who want to reach millions of followers. It's dead today. Unless you kill the president of the USA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just crazy how it is today. But I remember I was refreshing, it was like 200, 500. And I jumped from like 200 to 10K. And it was just like so random. And at the end of the day, it saved my life. Because after that, I was like getting 10, 15, 20. And then I was like, yeah, now I have a voice. So I can start reaching out people and bring ideas, bring my own project. So it's always an advice that I say. It's like, do you want to reach out people? Do you want to reach out galleries? Do you want to reach out brands with no following? It won't happen. People, they're going to be like, we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to find an idea, a concept that will help me to get like a bigger community. And from this, you can start like reaching out with ideas and your own project.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you also, how would you define your style as an artist, as a painter? I don't know much about art, but when I first discovered your paintings and your drawings, it kind of reminded me of Keith Haring, with like all the characters and stuff. It's very colorful and pop, kind of. So yeah, I was just wondering, how would you define your style, and who are some of the artists that maybe influenced you in the early stages of you becoming an artist?
So I still like try to really like find a way to define my art, because I don't have words to describe it, but I have words to say what's the meaning of my art. Mm-hmm. And that's the most important, I don't want to say it's like pop art or, people, when I read interview on me, it's like, oh, street artist Lucas Beaufort. But am I a street artist? Really? I did a couple of walls that was commissioned by the hotel. I'm not sure I'm a street artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so people always use I'm an artist. I love to paint whatever that comes to me, But
sure. If
you want to talk about street artists, let's talk about those guys that fucking destroy trains all night long with mask on their face. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's street art, that's really getting into those illegal things of the act of writing something that makes sense to you. Mm-hmm. So what I'd love to talk about is the meaning of my art, the Gus, the character that I created. Mm-hmm. It took me 10 years to really understand who is Gus. He was inside my head. And I used to have crazy nightmares back then of waking up in the middle of the night thinking of a monster trying to eat me, and I was running out and I was screaming, and my wife, she was like, hey, honey, it's all good. You at home, I'm here. And it takes always 20 minutes to understand I was in a safe place. Mm-hmm. And I realized that creating Gus saved me from my terrific nights of getting absorbed or getting eaten by a crazy monster. So first of all, Gus saved me in terms of I feel really better now. Mm-hmm. And what it represents the idea of the world that I would love to see the world like this. I would love to see a world where everybody will live happily with the respect of each other, no matter you love NoFX or no matter you love Wu-Tang, no matter you love whatever music, let's respect that. And mm-hmm. I talk about music, I can talk about politics, I can talk about whatever preferences we have. What I would love is to live happily in a world where you have preferences, that's fine. Mm. That's your preferences. And I feel when you say I love NoFX, people are going to say, oh, you love punk rock music, so you like white people, for example. People love to say this kind of stupid bullshit. Yeah. So Gus is this character flying all around the world, spreading this idea of let's be together in this world and let's respect each other test, And so I love to say that it represents me, is... Sorry, I say is, but actually, let me say that it's no gender. It's not a girl, it's not a boy. It's a mix of a bird and a human. That's why you can see the beak. Yeah. And you mentioned about Keith Haring. I love Keith Haring. And I tell you what, I discovered his art. I was 5 years old. I was in New York City. I was with my dad for the first time. And we were hanging around. When you're 5 years old from Cannes and you go to New York City, it's crazy. It's
yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's getting to another planet. And my dad, he was wearing a t-shirt with a monster on it, with the 3 eyes stuff. I was like, Dad, what is that? Think about it. I was 5 or 6 years old and Keith Haring was still alive.
Oh, yeah.
Back then. And he said, it's an artist from New York City. And there's a gallery right there. We can see some stuff. And you know what I mean? It wasn't I knew about him. It was just oh, that's a cool art. Let's go. And I saw canvases from him. So the first time I saw Keith Haring art, he was still alive. And it was maybe fresh paintings from him, which is insane when you think about it. And then, of course, people can see there is influence and stuff, but there is inspiration everywhere, I can tell. In any kind of painting, you can say and people love to say that. People say, oh, I can see a little bit of Space Invader there. I can see a little bit of Baker skateboards. We can see things everywhere, Virgil Abloh used to say, if in your creation, there is like 97% of inspiration and 3% that represents you. And I think that's correct, because it means that we don't really invent stuff today.
Yeah.
We take things and like we recreate it,
Sure.
And you talk about like artists that I love. I would love to mention Fernand Léger, which is for me like a big inspiration. And like more recent, I love art like Andy Rementer, is American. I love also like Jeff McFredrich. I really love his art. He's really influenced by the skateboard world, and I mean, I could mention a lot, like I love also this guy. I remember when it was very brand new through the gram, Henry Jones.
Oh, yeah.
He created like this character, which is a skater, which is him, I guess, and is really good illustrator of like representing like how it is to skate today with kind of like bubbles and different stories of like going to a skate park and like hanging out with skaters. So Henry Jones, if you don't know this guy, is a very young guy from the East Coast. I think he's from Philadelphia. Or around this area, but it's a good inspiration. But I could mention thousands of inspiration.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's why I create like art camp, because I love people. I love to meet those artists.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good transition, because I wanted to ask you about the LB project, so the Lucas Beaufort project. I was wondering how and when did that start? And what is the purpose, basically? Because from what I understood, it's a collective of artists that gather together. And you just mentioned an art camp. You're going to do one in June in Florida. So yeah, can you just tell me about when it started and what's the whole purpose?
So everything started when I quit the magazine. So when I quit the magazine, I started to go on website to see how it is to be normal, to look for a job, And it was funny because I went to Monster and I was like, okay, what it is to seek for a job. And after an hour, I was like, fuck that, shut down the computer, throw it away. I was like, I'm going to create my own job. But I didn't know what it was, It was like, but what I want to do. So I took a piece of paper and I drew like a triangle and I just wrote like the 3 things that really represent myself. So it was like skateboarding, art, and traveling. Okay. And the connection of those 3 created LB Project. And LB Project, yes, it's Lucas Beaufort Project, but I love to keep just LB Project because I don't care. It's LB, It's just like I needed a name.
Yeah.
So the first project that I did through LB Project was a tour in Europe, bringing together like 10 artists. Artists like BB Bastidas that I love. Even like this crazy artist, Jeremy Fish from San Francisco. Oh, yeah. It was Todd Brattrud. It was Michael Seaburn. It was a bunch of like crazy artists that I was admiring back then. And I still admire.
Of course.
So I reached out to them and I was like, let's go to do a tour in Europe. So it was like through skate shops, actually through FTC in Barcelona, through Benji in Amsterdam, just to mention a few. It's crazy because when we go to the future, like far ahead and we see the book, I think I was into this since the beginning, since everything is so like natural. So I did this project. I had like 5 boards per artist, did a tour in Europe for 1 year. And then we raised money for Skatistan. Exactly. And I was so stoked about it, like to do something that has a meaning, to do something for a good cause.
Yeah.
And after that, it was a very good experience. It was like supported by skate brands, to finance the project. Because I invited those artists to meet me in Europe. So it was like we were spending like 3-4 days together, skate, meet the community, and growing as an artist because I was like learning from them, asking them a lot of questions. And then a year later, I did the same project in the US. But instead of having just like artists, I brought photographers. So the new project was like, I work with Veldman. They are the photographer, Veldman, in Europe. So I asked him, do you want to be part of it? What's the deal? So I was like, send me a photo. So I printed the photo on 5 board and then I sent the set to an artist. So they did kind of like a recover project on boards.
I see,
so it was in the US for a year with FTC in SF. It was Escapist in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
It's so nice because, same thing. I met them, I think it was in 2016 or 2015 or something. And the same thing, I tried my best to raise money for Harold Hunter Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
So same thing, but we were more people. It was like more photographers, more artists, more boards, more skate shops. And I think I did a final show for the Agenda, which is a trade show in California. So it was like a good experience as well. So like when I quit the magazine, I straight up did something bringing artists together and bringing the skate community together and skate brands together to again like do something for a good cause, which is like foundation like Skateistan or Harold Hunter Foundation.
Yeah. And so eventually you started working on the documentary called Devoted. I mentioned it earlier, which was basically about skate media. I think it was released in 2017 around there. I'm not too sure of the exact date. So can you tell me a little bit about that project? How did this idea begin and how long did it take you to do all these interviews? Because there's so many people you interviewed for this and multiple countries.
Devoted is another example of like how much I want to explore new things, new topics, want to challenge myself with something new. But it's also like tells how much I want to meet the people I love, Like to be honest with you, Devoted was a very selfish project of like being able to spend time with Lance Mountain, with Mark Johnson, entering the crazy Thrasher Castle, because going there, it's not that easy to be involved and to be able to speak with Mike Burnett, to be able to spend time with Muska, but not just like in a fucking random bar. No, in his place. He opened his house. So spending time with Gar Mariano in this like small place, same thing, it's like they open their door. So the very beginning, it was like, I want to know more about those people, but how? So then I was like, what should I do? Like, what documentary that hasn't been done and would be super interesting? So I was like, same thing, think about all the way of like starting to skate, then starting to draw on covers of magazines. If I started to do that, it's because I love magazines. And then I did a documentary about them. It makes sense because I collected it and then I decided to interview them because they interview skaters. But why not like interviewing them and know what they have in their mind? And 2017 was a time where the print was it was hard, in a way, look at Transworld in the early 2000s. It was a Bible. And then in 2015, it was like so thin with nothing inside. So I wanted to know, is it really because of the internet? Or is it because the content was bad? And this is something that we have to understand, that if there's still like magazines that exist, like let's say there's Solo magazines, there's Place magazine from Germany. If it's still there, it's because they do a good job documenting skateboarding. You know what I mean? So when I started to do this, I wanted to kind of like a journalist. And, when I met Steve Berra, for example, when he was like, he took over Skateboarder magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And, he was dead. And through the barracks. And I loved the new version, I was like, that's sick. But I was kind of like, why there's not much of stories inside? If you remember when you used to flip it, it was like nice quality magazine. But where is the content? Where is the story? And I think it was missing. So when I interviewed him, I was like, don't you think that it's lacking like some words? And he was mad, He was like, hey, Lucas, where are you going? What are you trying to make me say? And I was like, no, don't get me wrong. I just want to say that always people use as an excuse that, print is getting down because of the internet. But I think the real excuse is like, you didn't like really like tweak it. I don't know, like a nice publication, you want to have it. It's tangible. You want to keep it. You want to get back to it and read. If it's just like a piece of like a collection of ads, it won't go anywhere, Like Gen Chem, for example. Gen Chem is a good example.
Yeah.
I talked about it in the movie. They don't do news every day. They have a new article every 3 days.
Yeah.
And you know what you do? you attend. You are waiting for it.
Yeah.
Every day you go on the website waiting for the new article. Do you think we really need to put like 5 new articles every day? I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the craziness of the world we're living today. We're living in a world where we want to put so much stuff. For what?
Yeah.
Until we die for a heart attack or something? So I was like, I'm down to slow down, honestly.
Yeah.
And we talked about it with the documentary, and what a time, honestly, like traveling in Japan, interviewing VHS, traveling in Australia, interviewing like Slam magazine. I was like traveling the world, interviewing those guys and understand where like Prince is going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because back then, Transworld was like transitioning from every month, and he was saying, Lucas, we're going to turn like to like every 2 months new magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And now 2022, no Transworld magazine anymore. So if you look at the documentary, it's kind of like historical, kind of.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I was also curious to ask you, because I saw that Jamie Owens, who was the one of the bosses basically at Transworld for a long time, he just started a new magazine called Closer. I think the first issue was just released a few days or weeks ago. He was just on the 9 Club not too long ago to talk about it. And yeah, I was just interested in knowing, do you think that's something that is going to come back a bit? Like doing just one magazine every 3 or 6 months or something, but doing a really proper, very good quality one with no ads or very little ads? And is that something that's going to develop more, or?
I'm super curious, actually, I met him in Tampa. He was there shooting photo, and I saw the magazine. I took it, of course. I have it with me.
Cool.
I'm always like stoked to see a new magazine, and his approach of like getting the old things and the new thing, that his approach of like not just talking about the newcomers and new skaters and new story. It was always like celebrating the past.
Yeah.
So like connecting each world is nice. Just like showing that it comes from something. Mm-hmm. And also I love his approach of like you have to subscribe to get the magazine. So it's only like the real like supporter, Mm-hmm. And it's better to get like 500 subscribers that will die for the magazine that's trying to be everywhere. And at the end of the day, you have like a bunch of magazines that won't find hands at the end of the day, I prefer like, it's like, when you have a brand. I prefer a brand that make like pre-orders, saying like, okay, we have 500 orders, so we create 500 t-shirts. Mm-hmm. Rather than like creating like 10,000 because it's less expensive, because it's like the scale,
Yeah.
And then 8,000 finish to a bin because nobody wanted to buy it, I like this approach. Mm-hmm. Like low key, a small quantity but nice quality, I love this. So yeah, good luck for this new adventure for
Closer.
Jamie, yeah.
I'm gonna try to get my hands on a copy. I'd love to see all the interviews and all the work they've been doing. And so I was also wondering, so you said basically Devoted was also kind of a pretext for you to get to meet some of your dream guests, or just skaters and people in the industry that you admired a lot. But did you kind of script, so to speak, the whole documentary before you went and traveled and did your interviews? Or did you do it the opposite way? Did you just go there, did some interviews, kind of just improvised a bit, and then with all that content just kind of pieced it all together? How did you work on the storytelling, basically, for the documentary?
I think I interviewed so much people. I mean, like almost like 100.
Yeah.
Like even like PJ Ladd is involved, but you don't see him in the documentary, and it's a shame, I spent like an hour with him. It was in the park. It was awesome. But the answers that I had wasn't like what I was looking for, It was like repeating what I had already with other people. So I was like, I can't force myself, and it wasn't mad, you didn't even say like, oh, you didn't put me in the documentary. So when I started this thing, I had like 10 questions that I always ask people, because it was a way for me to build the documentary. Otherwise, you just don't know where you go.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, what magazines represents to you? What's your old memories? What is lacking? So I was always asking the same question, so I can put like the best answer in each different section,
Mm-hmm.
So same like there's a very good thing. If you see at the end, who's next? Who's the next guy that will kill the game? if you look at the documentary in 2017, Masafumi from VHS talks about Yuto Origome.
Oh, yeah.
And it's crazy,
Yeah.
He kills the game those days. And 2017, he was already talking about him, saying like, is the next guy.
Yeah.
And I'm so stoked because in 2017, who knew about him? Just a couple of Japanese people, that's it.
Yeah, true.
So I'm stoked, I'm stoked to see that. But yeah, the most memorable time for the documentary was the time I spent with Mark Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
It was in the middle of like getting kicked out from Lakai to go to Adidas.
Yeah.
And it was a hard time for him. His finger, if you look at the documentary, is brown.
Because of smoking?
If you zoom, because of smoking. He was smoking maybe 5 packs a day,
Oh, wow. Shit.
He was trembling. He was like super. But the time that I had with him is like the most memorable time of my whole life in skateboarding. He was so sensitive. He was so smart, always like bringing things that people scared to say. And I was like so intense and I will never forget that,
Yeah.
And then we went off record, when he told me like things that I won't mention now about like how it was with Lakai and because I don't want to have trouble. Yeah. But what he told me was tough and rough, and I was like, okay. It changed my mind how brands could be, because in this beautiful world, everybody respects everybody, pays everybody well. But in the real life, when you get into like very specific people, man, in skateboarding, especially in skateboarding, it's a hard world because it's beautiful because it's just the most creative and beautiful act in the world. But when you know how much people can make a living to skateboarding, that's a shame,
It's also a business and yeah.
It's a business, but like skaters, like pro skaters should get paid like way more than what they used to, They get $500 by jumping 20 stairs and almost die every try, Fuck that, we should like, I hope, we find a good balance of like, hey, that's not fair that you have to work in a supermarket during the day and skate during the night to be able to live when you're a pro skater.
Yeah,
that's all I want to say.
One question I heard this in your Big Spin interview. You mentioned that Jereme Rogers tried to attend the premiere that you did in Los Angeles in 2017 or 2018. I don't remember what year. But he wasn't on the guest list or something. And I think your wife was kind of greeting people to come into the premiere. And since he wasn't on the list, she was like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't come in. Or did I get that right? Or was it a true story? Or
It's a fucking true story. And I love this story, to be honest with you, because we almost like avoid the drama because so everybody was there inside, so it was in 2017, the premiere. Okay. And like almost all the people that, I don't want to say all of them, but a group amount of people that are from the movie were there at the premiere. I rent a theater, it was a crazy time, I spent all my money to rent a theater and to have the people there. Like, just to tell you the thing, the theater proposed me to put like 3,000 euros on the table to create like a catering with foods and drinks.
Yeah.
And as I was short in money, my wife and I prepared everything, during the whole day. We prepared like pizza, quiche, whatever,
Sure.
And, like when you're passionate, you want to make things yourself. And especially when you're short with money, there's always a way, to do it yourself.
Sure.
So that night, my wife, she was at the entrance, checking the list of the people. Mm-hmm. And I told her, like, if they're not on the list, they can't get in,
Sure.
And after that, she told me after because I was inside the theater. And she said, like, hey, that guy came to me covered up with tattoo on his face. He was like, hey, I'm Jereme Rogers. Can I get in? It was like, sorry, I can't see your name. And this guy was hoping that the girl who knew him, like, hey, Jereme, of course, come over.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know any faces, like she's... My wife, she works with me. She's my manager. She's the best partner ever. Mm-hmm. But the thing to talk about her, she loves the fact that I love skateboarding and I have passions. But she's not into it, When I try to show her some videos, she's like, you know what, Lucas, I just see guys rolling on the board and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and so she was like, I'm going to do the job and I'm going to be good. And then the guy said to my wife, hey, you know what? I'm probably in the movie, so you better let me in. And he wasn't in the movie, actually. It was bluffing. And,
Okay.
you know, I was lucky that a guy from the theater get out to smoke a cigarette, and he saw like Jereme, and he came to my wife and said, hey, better let him in. He's a
Yeah,
ex-pro.
he's like a pro skater. Yeah.
Yeah, you should let him go. And my wife was, no, I'm the boss here.
Yeah.
And the guy, you know, the guy that was talking to my wife got back to the theater, said, hey, you better go outside. There's a Jereme Rogers. He wants to get in. And then I was him. And I hug him like, hey, Jereme, what's up? Yeah, come on. And my wife, she was like, okay, you're the boss, you know? So it was funny. It was
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so I want to talk about Heart, your latest big project. So it's basically, I don't know if you can call it a coffee table book, but it's like basically an art book about skate shops and the history of skate shops for the last 40 years. So yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, especially after talking about everything you've been doing before that you would do something like that. But yeah, how did that project come into your mind, and how long did it take you to work on it all?
Yeah, Heart is another project that I freaking love to make, you know. Same thing, you know, I will never, none of my project is somebody like whispering on my ear saying like, hey, you better do this or you should do that. Or even a brand telling me like, I would tell you more about the Dickies book after that. But
Sure.
Same thing, Dickies book was my idea. They didn't approach me saying like, hey, do you want to do a book for our 100-year anniversary? So Heart, it was like, you know, 2020, COVID time. I'm a big traveler, and suddenly I was not able to go outside my house, which was really hard for me.
Yeah,
So
I can
I
imagine,
was like,
yeah.
what could I do? And I was like, okay, after magazines, after media, after all, you know, I was like, what should I do?
What's left?
Yeah, and I was like, the foundation. And when I thought about it, I was like, skate shops are the most important things
Yeah.
in the skate world. And I'm not scared to do that, you know. Of course, we need product. Of course, we need brands. Of course, we need skateboards to make it happen. But the foundation is skate shops. A place where you can get advices, where you can have a home, where you can make friends, where you can stay and talk shit about whatever you want. That's a skate shop. And it reminds me my early years, 1994, getting to LSD and being scared to be there because it was like another world.
Yeah.
It was a place
Intimidating.
where I was scared, but at the same time, I was like touching everything. It was a t-shirt. It was just a fucking t-shirt because it was written real on it. You were like, let's go, you know? And, yeah, I remember that. And so 2020, everything's closed. I was thinking about skate shops and how hard it was going to be to live this period, you know. And I was like, okay, let's make a book to pay a tribute to them because it never happened. And when I started to reach out those shops, because you have to understand that I interviewed almost 100 of skate shops, but I knew 35 or 40 because I met them for real.
Yeah, you went there and met the people, and
so it was easier for me to kind of like present them the idea. And when I said to them like, hey guys, I want to make a book, you know, spreading love and telling the story of like 40 years of skate shop's history, they literally like they jumped all over the place.
Yeah.
They were like, let's fucking go, let's fucking go. It was insane because I felt the love. I felt that it was needed. So first of all, I talked to shops saying like, are you down? And you can say like, how did I pick this shop and not this one?
Yeah.
Because again, you know, this is for all the skate shops that will hear about it, you know. Heart is not about 90 skate shops. It's about all the skate shops in the world. This is dedicated to you. Because when you read somebody says that a skate shop is a home, a place that is welcoming everyone, I'm sure you agree with this. So supporting Heart is like saying like, yes, we care. And yes, we love skate shops.
Yeah.
And how can I make a book interviewing 1,000 of skate shops? to make what? A 10,000 pages book that is impossible to ship?
Yeah.
I think that I want people to remember that I fight with you and I'm on your side. This book is not about, we don't care who is involved and who is interviewed, because those shops talk about what a skate shop is.
Yeah.
So if you're a skate shop, you have the same idea. So it's important for me to say that. And again, like, how did I make the selection? I talk to distributors, I talk to brands, I talk to people, photographers, and say, give me your 5 best skate shop in Germany. Give me your best 5 skate shops in Italy. And then I put everything together and I decided to interview them. But if you go at the end of the book, I mentioned like 800 skate shops that are part of it to say, well, yes, we are together.
Yeah.
We are together and we fight for the same thing, for the same culture. So yeah, I interviewed 90 people, but it's way more. It's us. And if you're a skate shop from Milan, you're part of it. It's for you as well, you know.
Sure.
Because when you read it and you see a skate shop like Pone Skate Shop from California saying like, we have to do this for the community, FTC for the community, for the city.
Yeah.
When you read this and you're a guy from Milan and you get the book, what's the first reaction you have? You want to go down and go see your local skate shop and support them.
Yeah.
So even if it's not on the book, you understand what's the meaning behind, and we have to take care of them and we have to protect them and be with them and
Support them.
grow with the community. Yes, support them. So yeah, it's about us. And Heart is way more than 90 skate shops. It's the whole industry. Because there is like Jeff Rowley, you have Josh Callis talking about their first souvenir.
Templeton.
Yeah, Templeton. So it's the whole industry. That's the reason why when I approach brands, Vans, Huff, DC, straight up, they say, let's go. Because if you say no to this project, you say, fuck you, skate shops.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. You can't say that. So I was super stoked to do a project that brought people together.
Yeah.
Nike, Vans, you can say whatever you want about all those brands. They supported it to make it happen. So if you look at like, even like Soul Tech, and I'm stoked they're involved, you know, Don Brown is involved. And it's not easy for them because, you know, of course, when the big company came into skateboarding, you know, it was hard for them.
Yeah.
But don't forget the past. Don't forget early 90s when the Ethnies, Axel, you know, the Sal Barbier were there. We were all like fucking crazy about those brands. And then all the big brands came and we all like, oh, we don't care. You know, we want the big cars with big money, you know. Don't forget the past, you know. I always say, don't forget the past. DC, Vans, whatever, you know, like those brands were there at the early days and it's important to support. Full support for all those brands. And I'm stoked that they decided to follow me in this crazy
adventure.
Crazy time.
Yeah. And so you just came back from Tampa a few days ago and you drew all over the course, basically, or the skate park. And it was a perfect timing also for the release of the book and everything. And I was just curious to hear, how was it, basically? How was that experience? It must have been a trip to see the level of skating and everything and your art over there. And you must have connected with a lot of people. And yeah, how was that whole experience over there?
To be honest with you, skateboarding wise, it was time of my life, you know. Because again, you know, like, you know, Tampa Pro for ages. I remember back then the 411 video of like, the only way to knew what happened, it was like getting the new VHS 411 and be like, oh, that's cool. You know, Kerry gets one this year.
Yeah.
That's cool. You can see like a 5 minutes shot of like 6 skateboarding. And when you see that and you're 14 years old, you're like, wow, that's Disneyland for me, you know?
Yeah.
And I think all the time I put myself there, you know? It wasn't like I was lucky. It's because I'm a hustle guy.
Yeah.
I hustle all the time. And first time I went to Tampa for Tampa Pro, it was in 2018 for the LB project, actually.
Oh, okay.
You know, I told you like I did some like show in FTC, in New York, everywhere.
Sure.
And I did one show during Tampa Pro with the border.
Oh, yeah.
It's another shop. And then I was able to be in Tampa for Tampa Pro and see this as not as a spectator, you know. I just was like there to look at the contest.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. But it wasn't enough for me, you know. I was like then dreaming of painting the park. So I started to reach out Paul Zitzer, you know, who worked there since, a long time.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Paul, I don't want to force you, you know. The thing is just like, I'm ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay, let me think about it, you know. And then 3 years later, it was in January this year, or I think it was December last year. He was like, hey, Lucas, are you ready? And I said, more than ever. Let's go. And he was like, man. The crazy thing is like, there is stuff that you can do in your life for free, man. I don't want to say it was for free because of course it was intense and it was like dollars involved, but not crazy. What I want to say is like, when you do stuff for free, it's because you freaking love it.
Yeah, for sure.
And this thing in Tampa, you know, I would have done it for free just to tell you how much it means to me.
Yeah.
And I worked so hard. It was like 3-4 days, like 20 hours a day.
I'm sure it must have been intense, yeah.
But then when it was done, and then you have the whole skate world going there for the contest, and you see your artists like surrounding it, man, that's a dream. You know? And I'm so grateful that I was able to do this. And I'll be back in November for the Tampa Am.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll expand my art to make it bigger, and I want to add some new stuff because I don't want to people see like the same shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm ready to be back, and I felt like home, honestly. Like Paul Zitzer and Brian Schaefer and the whole squad, they took me like I was their son, you know. That was the family. They were like super nice with me, and they were like, Lucas, Tampa, skate park of Tampa is your home forever.
Cool.
So yeah, time of my life. And I really want to tell people, like, if you've never done Tampa Pro, just fucking go there because it's the best skate contest in the world. Just for the vibe, the crowd. It's super hot, super warm there, but the parties and like the vibe outside the park is just like, it's so unique. So just go there and live it. It's very special.
So you mentioned earlier the Dickies book you're going to work on. So I was just wondering what other projects are coming up for you.
So the Dickies book is done. I mean, now we have to review everything together, see if there's no like politics and stuff, you know. But they approached me last year saying like, hey, Lucas, we want to have you as an ambassador, kind of saying like, if you want to pick whatever you want on the website, we would be happy to give you some stuff. And I was like, hey guys, I love Dickies. The thing is like, I get approached by brands all the time and my closet is like, I have too much things, gifts and stuff. I'm like, hey, I might take a pant or, you know, a trouser. What? That's it. I don't want to go too crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, what's the news? What are you working on? And it was last year. And they said, next year we celebrate our like 100 years anniversary. And I was like, fuck yes. And that I was like, hey, you know what? What if you send me archives of like photos from 1922 to now, and I'm going to like draw on it, kind of like a recover book on Dickies archives.
Cool.
And like, oh, let me think about it. And then 3 months later, I was working on it, but it's going to be bigger than this. It's a lot of like interviews of like the CEO, you know, like so much people that work there, the designer, and also like the skate team.
Yeah.
So Jamie Foy, Tom Knox, Vincent Alvarez, all those guys, I interviewed them to know, how did they start writing for the brand? And so, I tried to do, it's an art book. I don't want to do like a commercial book, you know. So it's going to be released end of this year.
Okay.
And so this thing, I have the art camp in
in
new
June.
art camp in Florida in June at this place named Hotel Palms. Is my friend Greg. He runs the motel.
Okay.
It's so sick. It's near Jacksonville. And you know, my art camp is a week art festival where I invite artists from the US and around the world when I can, and bring people together. Same thing. It's like, if you're a young artist and you want to join us, I would never tell you to fuck off. I will be like, hey, come with us.
Yeah, come hang out. Yeah.
You don't have an invitation? Who cares? Bring your stuff. You don't have stuff? This is your stuff, you know? And it's crazy. Like, I have like people that reach me like, hey, how does it work? How can I come there? Like, how can I be invited? I'm like, why do you need to be invited? Come over.
Yeah.
And I realized that people, like, they always need me to put them in a bus or put them in a plane. I'm like, make it happen yourself. You know?
Yeah.
Be responsible of yourself.
Take action.
Yeah, if you don't have the money to book the plane, you know what? Sell cookies every Sunday. You know what I mean? It's like, there's always a way, you know? You don't know what I did to pay my first plane ticket to go to the US, you know? I did crazy shit. playing guitar outside. I used to play guitar down the street, putting like my hat and be like, hey, let's make money, you know? Let's hustle, whatever you can do. I was like making 2-3 jobs in the same time, night jobs during the day, you know? I always like make things happen, and I never try to find excuses of like, oh, I don't have the money to travel. I didn't have the money to travel. I just like find a way. So people always find excuses. Oh, I can't come. It's Florida. It's far. I never thought like this, you know? When I was 20, I was like, I don't care if it's far. I will make it happen.
Yeah, very driven. Yeah, absolutely. One question I finish usually my interviews with before the friends questions is just basically what's like the most valuable lesson that you feel you've learned from skateboarding?
You know, this question, it's hard for me because honestly, like everything that I am today is because of skateboarding. When I was a young student, you know, I was bad at school, getting back home with bad marks. And my mom, she was desperate. She was like, what are we going to do with you, you know? Because I was like always thinking about going out and skate. I talk about a time. I mean, I really like skate hard from 13 to 22, 23. Okay. I was really like 10 years. But it's the time where you're student, you know, when you have to be like, let's say, into it. And I wasn't into it. I wasn't doing my homeworks. And I always like make it happen because I was smart enough to kind of like cheat during, you know, the time I had like an exam. I was like, hey, dude, what's the 2? What's the 3? What's the, you know, I was always smart about it, you know.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be like that guy getting like the worst mark in the class, because then people like take you like a fucking dumb guy.
Yeah.
So I was like average, you know. But yeah, you talk about like, you know, skateboarding taught me English, for example. Who do you think like taught me how to speak in English? School? In France? Come on. This is bullshit, you know? And again, you know, like if you're a young guy listening to this, English will save your life. English is the best thing. When I travel, I always like meet French people being like super awkward, trying to communicate and speaking French in slow motion. Like, excusez-moi, est-ce que c'est possible d'avoir une cuillère? And I'm like, do you think this guy will understand? Yes, but I don't know how to speak English. I'm like, I know, but use your phone. Like there's a way to like translate it, you know, like.
Yeah.
And I always say people like, best thing you have to learn in class, English. Because we live in the world where we connect every time through Instagram, you know, there's people like from like random country reaching you like, hey, what do you do? And like, sorry, I don't speak English. Sorry, we can't communicate. So yeah, skateboarding really like taught me the best thing that I wanted to know in life, you know, like being curious, wanted to explore the world, being open-minded, having friends from all around the world, like black, yellow, red, green, who cares, you know? And so yeah, that's the best school that I could ever like experience. 4 wheels, 1 piece of food, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, let's do the French questions. So this first one, I had the same question from 2 different guys, but I'll have you listen to one of them.
What up, Lucas? It's Mark Oblo. What's going on? All right, my question for you, because you did this amazing book of all the skate shops. Do you remember the very first skate shop that you walked into? What was the name of that shop? And what was your first impression? That's my question. Hope you're well.
That's sick. It's cool to have a question from Mark because I know him for a while. But the first time I met him, it was in January in California. It was so random. I went to this shop and the guy said, oh, you know, I'm friend with Mark and he's living just around the corner. Let me reach out. And he came because he actually knew me. So from that time, January, we didn't stop talking and we are working on a show together. So we're going to have a show pretty soon.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you read the book, the intro is about this.
Yeah.
It's about me and my first experience, and it's LSD.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier, yeah.
It's a funny name because LSD, you know, LSD skate shop. You're like, what the hell is that? But it's Langlois Sport Distribution. And again, it was like entering Disneyland. It was entering the place where, like, before going there, I was like training myself, like, okay, Lucas, don't say this question. don't be dumb, be brave. You know, I was like, like this because I was so young. I was 13. And I remember the first time I went there, it took me like almost like an hour to be ready. And then I got there. It was just one guy or two guys. It was empty. And yeah, they were looking at me like, oh, who the fuck is this young little Grom, you know? And it kind of like saw that I was like scared. And it was funny because there was just 3 boards on the wall. And I said, can I get this board? And he was like, no, man, it's already sold. And that one, no, it's sold. And that one, yes, it's possible. And I didn't like it because it was a girl logo.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. When you're 13 and you don't know shit about skateboarding, you don't want to buy a board with a toilet girl logo on it, you know? And it was a shame. I was like, the fuck? But I was like, okay, that's the last one available. I got it. And you know what? The funny thing is like the day after I went to the skate spot in Cannes and I was scared that people would see my graphic. And then somebody said, what? You have the Guy Mariano girl skateboard? That's so awesome. And I was like, what? That's cool. Come on, girl skateboard. And it was brand new. You know, back then it was like a year or something that the brand happened. And everybody knew that girl was the shit.
Yeah.
And then I was like starting to like get into like videos and be like, okay, Goldfish and like all girls video. And I was like, damn, that's so awesome. So yeah, Mark, that was the answer. And yeah, thanks for your support, bro.
Very cool. All right, this next question is from Jacob Sawyer at Slam City Skates in London. So he said, in the interviews that Lucas did for Heart, he asks where skate shops see themselves being in 10 years' time. I would ask him what his predictions are. Where are we in 10 years' time? Are there more skate shops or will there be less?
I hope so much that it's going to be more because honestly, what I see now in skateboarding, and especially in the booming of like the girls community, makes me think that we're going to have like skate shops, more and more skate shops that girls will run. Like I want to say shout out to Amy from KCDC.
Oh, yeah.
And Michelle from Antisocial.
Antisocial, yeah.
And there's probably more girls, but those girls are amazing. They're warriors, running their boutique for so many years.
Yeah.
And as a girl, it's not easy. And they prove to everyone that
it's possible.
Yeah, and having a skate shop that a girl that will run, it's just different, you know, and we need it. So
for sure.
Through the girls, I think it's gonna help to grow super fast and becoming like way more impactful. So yeah, I have good expectations.
All right, so this next question is from Ben Gonzolin from Wall Street Skate Shop in Lyon. He just says basically, where do you find all this motivation, so to speak? It looks like you're always on 1,000 different projects, whether it's Tampa, doing books, exhibitions, NFTs, you name it. So where do you find the energy and the motivation?
Since I was born, because, you know, like a lot of stuff happened in my life. And I don't focus on just me. I focus on what's happening around me. And, you know, like tragedy happens sometimes of like you see your small cousin dying on a car accident, for example. And you see that it's changed lives, you know, your life and especially the parents and stuff. And since my young age, I realized that we have to live like 100%, like 1,000%, because just for this, you know, we all like experience this of like having a young person that will pass away, you know, because of like disease.
Yeah.
And for those people, we need to live 5 lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be alive. I have to live 5 lives, you know, and there's a guy, the guy who runs Big Spin, Seb Charlot.
Seb Charlot, yeah.
Yeah, I told him like, I have this quote I always say, it's chaque seconde compte.
Every second counts?
Yes, that's my motto, you know.
Your philosophy?
I'm always like this. Yeah, philosophy of like the moment right now. For me, I'm not doing my homework. I'm doing a nice conversation with a dude that I know for not so long. But I think it's great that before doing this, I had the time to listen to you, listen how you make your interviews and how passionate you are, because I'm sure you are to do all this thing, It's not like you get paid for this. You do this for the love of it.
Of course, yeah.
And I hope one day it will become something that you're going to get like sponsors or whatever, And
yeah, we'll see.
But I know that you do it for the right reason. You do it because you just love to know the story of the people that inspires you. And
yeah, exactly, yeah.
The first interview I listened from you, I knew that you were doing this because you know what you're talking about, It's so easy to know that, this guy is just like pretending.
Yeah, you can tell.
I know you don't pretend. You know what you're talking about. You love skateboard history, and that's why I'm sure that the podcast is gonna become like something like pretty soon. It's already something, but it's gonna expand.
Well, thank you. Yeah, coming from you, that means a lot. So yeah, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. This one, I think, is someone you admire a lot, Michael Sieben. So he asked a few things, but I'll just ask you this question. He said, what was the first skate graphic that you saw that really connected the dots between skateboard, culture, and art?
The first graphic made by an artist that really like blew my mind was Andy Jenkins. Back then it was like my early ages. I think it was 1995 or something. Mm-hmm. And it was a basketball series. And it was the Costin or something. All those guys, jumping and making like a dunk or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's different, It's a basketball drawing on a deck, and I was like, that's interesting, to be so different. But Andy Jenkins, shout out to him.
Yeah.
I know that this series like really like inspired me, and I bought the board actually. I think it was the Costin one.
Okay. I kind of remember this series, but I would have to see a picture of it to remember it fully. But yeah,
if you check it out, just like wrote like a basketball series, Andy Jenkins.
Girl skateboards, yeah.
Yeah, I think they remade it, but the OG one, you see, you remember.
This is an interesting question also from Michael, but he said there's a ton of newer skate brands in existence right now. Which of them do you find most exciting art-wise?
Wow, it's a good question. Again, I think as everyone, we have our preferences.
Of course.
The brand I'm going to say now, it doesn't mean that it won't change, But I love Quasi.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think they inspire a lot of people now. I see a lot of Quasi style on like different brands, and even like outside skateboarding, in snowboarding, for example, I see like graphic that really like represent this. So I think...
Okay.
Chad Bowers is the owner. I speak to him, and, I send him the book. He seems to be very, he lives in Ohio, which is far from the mecca of, California.
LA, yeah.
And, it's nice to see, this guy is, doing the most impressive skate brand those days, and he lives far from everything. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know, the vibe behind the brand is incredible. It reminds me a little bit of, Alien Workshop back then.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Kind of mystery behind,
Yeah.
So I would say Quasi. I love Passport.
Oh yeah.
I think Passport, they do very good job with Marcus Dixon. He's the art director.
Yeah.
He's so good, and I think I bought almost 20 Passport boards that is waiting to be on the wall. I buy boards all the time. I buy almost 5 boards a month.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Just because I love it, just because it reminds me a moment of time. And the good thing is I always buy from another skate shop. Every month I buy from another skate shop from London, from Germany, from Spain, just to support, just to be no, I don't want to put all my eggs on one plate. I want to be different people. So I buy boards all the time. And cool. I had problem with my ankle a year and a half ago. I used to skate all the time. Mm-hmm. And since then, I hope one day I'll be back to it because I'm so scared now, when I just roll on the board, I can't even ollie because I'm scared to just roll it again.
Yeah.
So I buy boards just for the wall right now, but I'm hoping to get a skate park one day and to have a big studio X skate park X place where we have events and bring the community. And so I might be back to skateboarding at that time, kind of relearning everything to, muscle my ankle and be back to it. But so far I was in Tampa, tried to skate, man, it's just in my head.
Yeah.
My ankle is doing better. But I'm scared. I'm just scared.
Yeah. No, I feel you 100%. I had the same issue when I broke my ankle when I was like 21 or something, and I never fully got the confidence back to skate like I used to. I mean, I can roll around, do maybe a kickflip, but that's pretty much it. Like anything beyond that is too frightening for me. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next question. This one is audio.
This is Dave Waite from 35th Ave in Federal Way, Washington, and I wanted to ask Lucas what his most challenging art installation was. What kind of material did you use, and how long did it take you? Thanks. Have a good one.
It's good to hear from him. It was one of the first guy that I interviewed for the book. 35th Ave is one of the oldest skate shops still alive. 1977. It's insane.
So it's one of the very first ones in the book, I guess. Yeah, I'm pulling it out right now.
Skate shop wise, I think it's the oldest.
Yeah, he's the first one in the book.
So, yeah, I mean, the craziest one, art installation, it was probably the one I did in Montreal in 2018. It was incredible. It was 25 meters by 25 meters building. And I had just 3 days to make it happen. And it was so hard. I had an assistant with me to make it happen. Thanks God. And we had to work with like front light during the night.
Okay, wow.
So we were like starting like 7 in the morning and we were still there on top of the huge thing at night, like 9, 10 sometimes, because we had just 3 days to make it happen. And the thing is like, I'm scared of the heights.
Oh, okay.
So when you're 25 meters high, I was like this. And it was like windy.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was tough, but I was so proud at the end. When we finished the wall, we cracked the beer, and I was like covered with dust. I was dirty, but it was like, fuck, man, we did it.
Yeah,
so made it. Montreal mural.
That must have been a nice beer after a moment like that. Yeah.
IPA only. I love to say that. I'm an IPA guy. Don't offer me a blonde beer. I will like throw it away. So, yeah.
Good to know.
If you want to crack a beer from me, IPA only.
All right. So this next question is from Yosuke from Hash Dogs in Tokyo. So he said, "Hi, Lucas. We are honored to be featured in your book, Heart. I'm just curious, why did you pick us up?"
Same thing. I made my research. I talked to some people in, like Masafumi from VHS. It's the media there. And I was like, who should I talk with? I tell you that if you've never been to Japan, the skate community is like booming. Of course, the Olympic helped a lot, but before the Olympic, do you know how many skate shops that exist there? It's crazy. It's like, let's say in Tokyo, I think there is 10 skate shops in Tokyo.
Wow, okay.
It's huge. So it was super hard for me to pick one. So I had to ask a lot of people. But yeah, Yosuke I met him for real back then, when I was in Japan.
Yeah.
And he told me something like, he doesn't make much. Sometimes, he lose money and it's just like running a skate shop is his whole life, and he will do it until he's dead. So I remember when he said that to me, and I was like, it needs to be in the book because of his philosophy of like
passion.
Yeah, he told me like he doesn't make money at all, He's just like doing what he loves, and to be so dedicated, I was like, he deserves a fucking trophy,
Yeah, for sure.
So that to you, bro.
And he said also, I heard you're coming to Japan this fall. Are you planning to do an exhibition?
Yeah, it's true. I talked to him and with a lot of different guys in Japan. I want to do a tour, kind of like exhibit every 2 days in like from the north to the south to reach like even like Okinawa Island. Okay. And I'm so down. Everybody's down. It's just like I checked after that. How is it to travel there? And we're still banned to travel in Japan.
Oh yeah.
So I'm waiting for good news. Hopefully, it will be open again to people, but I don't know yet. So once I can travel there, I will for sure do this because Japan people, fuck man, this is the best. Best food, best people, different world. 3 reasons to go there.
All right, next question.
Hey Lucas, it's Julius. So with Heart, you manifested a tribute to skate shops around the globe. The one community, the important part of our skateboard culture. And with Titos, of course, we're super proud to be part of it. And with your art, you manifest your creativity, your style, and your thoughts. And we all know to let the creativity flow, we need to get in that certain state of mind. And for some, this mind or this state of mind is a routine. For some, it's a certain song. For some, it's a place or something visual. How do you support getting into your flow, into your creative phase?
Nice to hear from Julius. Julius is the son from...
The founder?
Yeah, from the founder of Titus.
Titus skate shops in Germany.
Yes, which is one of the first skate shop that opens. So I moved in Normandy, which is an hour west Paris, in 2018. So I grew up in Cannes and I stayed my whole life there, like 35 years, 36 years. And I needed to be in the middle of nowhere. I needed to be surrounded by cows. I needed to be in the countryside just to clear my mind. And it's happening those days, you know, like I wake up every morning with the sounds of birds. It makes me feel so good. And it reminds me how beautiful is our planet, you know, like just... I don't want to wake up in the morning by the horn of like, doo, doo, you know, or fuck you, you know, like on big cities, it's always a da 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 da, you know, that's big cities, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And I grew up with this of like always hearing the sounds of cars. And so to reply to Julius is, you know, I'm back to travel again, but every time I go back home, it's the best moment where I can just like reset my mind, meet my wife, see my dogs, and, you know, feel the best in the world. So the only way to reset is like getting back home after big trips.
Yeah. How much time do you spend at home in a whole year? I'm not talking about COVID times, but like between 2018 and 2020, like how much of the year do you actually spend at home versus traveling?
It's crazy because my biggest time was 2018, 2019. And when I check out the time I was outside home, it was basically 7 months a year.
Damn.
So it's crazy because I was like brand new living in Normandy. So we arrived there and the next day I was in China for a month. And then I kept like traveling in the US. And I was like, why do I have a home in Normandy? You know, I asked myself about it and now it makes sense, you know, even if like now I'm going back to travel a lot. My wife, she used to come with me, but she likes her place. She likes to be here. And we have so much stuff to do that when I'm traveling, she can like organize all my paper and stuff. But yeah, we love to travel together. But yeah, honestly, like it was intense. I hope I won't be in this like intensity again of like every week going to 8 hours flight all the time.
Yeah.
But I like it also, you know, I like to meet new people. I'm going to India end of July for another project with a hotel, W Hotel, and same thing, you know, like I'm gonna enjoy being in Goa, being in Bombay, and, you know, like live the wild, you know. The act of traveling keep me in good shape. At the same time, you know, it takes me away from my dogs, and it's hard, you know, like to be like fully happy, you know. I think I will never be fully happiness, but I try to reach my goal is like to be really like, oh yeah, I don't have to do nothing today. But
yeah,
my wife, she's always saying like, because I always say that when I'm gonna turn 60, I'm gonna slow down, and she knows already that I will never slow down. I will be like until I die.
All right, so very last question from Jim Thibault. So he said, thank you for the hard work and effort with this book. It is a beautiful work of art and testament to so many great people at so many great skate shops and all that they are doing for skateboarding. 2 quick questions. Tell us about a moment or event at a shop that was beautiful. And the second question is, what is your favorite shop to sit and watch a video at and why?
I think it was probably Furnace skate shop.
Oh yeah.
Went there and it was like a couple of months after like making my first real board graphic for a legit brand, which was Almost back then. I did a board for Their One Song. And I went there and I was random and I saw the board on the wall. I was like, wow. And a little kid say, are you Lucas Beaufort? He said, Lucas Beaufort? And I was like, yes. Oh man, I'm a fan. And then he pointed with his finger the board of Their One Song Almost, and he bought the board that I signed, you know, to him.
Pretty cool.
So it was such a epic time, honestly, because it was just like, let's go there to see how it is, you know. And he ended up meeting this kid, being happy to buy a board that I made. And concerning the video, I think it's hard to say, but nothing will beat the time where VHS happened and we were all waiting for one video every 3 months.
Yeah.
And the whole city were there to see the video on the couch. So I won't say LSD because they didn't have like so much stuff to watch video, but the shop after that was Premium Skate Shop.
Okay.
They're not there anymore, but I remember like they had a big couch and we were all like watching
the new skate video.
I remember the Osiris, the Storm. We were
Storm,
all
yeah.
together, yeah, and it was epic time, you know.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up here, but thank you so much, Lucas. It was an honor to chat with you. Good luck with all the new projects you're going to work on, and thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
That's it for my conversation with Lucas Beaufort. Follow him on Instagram at Lucas_Beaufort, BEAUFORT. Visit his website lucasbeaufort.com to check out some of his art and get your hands on his book Heart that we talked about. And if you haven't seen it yet, go watch Devoted, his documentary dedicated to skateboarding media from 2017 on Vimeo. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon for a new episode of Beyond Boards.